Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson, this is Full Time Devils, this is the Hull City preview. Thursday night we will be 90 minutes, hopefully, away from a trip to Wembley and possibly Jose Mourinho's first bit of silverware in his reign as Manchester United manager. But to talk about that, we have got Paul from Rentcast, we have got John from Global Reds TV, and we are also joined by Ben. Hello guys, how is everybody?
Good, thanks.
Anthony Martial. The papers are seeming to be talking up this rift between him and Jose Mourinho. Paul, is there anything to worry about, do you think?
Who knows? Jose Mourinho is a complicated man, and no one understands him but his woman. No, that's shaft. Anyway, it wouldn't be a total shock if something went wrong with an important player at United during Jose Mourinho's reign. I don't think we've got enough weight of evidence at the moment. I mean, Mourinho was extremely upfront I was at the press conference where he talked about Martial needing to listen to Mourinho and not his agent. Since then, he's been in and out of the team, but in a way that I think is fairly sensible. I mean, we definitely missed him against Stoke, but he's hit some form, and if this one does go wrong, it's going to be a huge lost opportunity because Martial's so important. But we don't have enough evidence yet to say there's a disaster.
Duncan Castles came out and said that he didn't miss training, which was reported by a couple of outlets yesterday. Do you think this is Jose Mourinho managing the squad correctly? Because you've got the likes of Mata and Mkhitaryan and Rashford as well that also need to come in and get game time. I don't think Martial's been frozen out. Do you, John?
I don't know. It's a very interesting question here. I mean, I think all this talk of Anthony Martial and all this unrest might seem a bit overly exaggerated, but I mean, you have to keep in mind what happened to other players throughout the season. I mean, Mkhitaryan obviously being sort of the prime example. Coming from Dortmund, this huge player, huge sensation, had a fantastic season, and he comes and he just sits on the bench for the longest time. And there's questions of discipline, there's questions of following the manager's tactics, following the manager's orders, and like Paul just mentioned there, there were quotes. Jose Mourinho has come out into the press and said, he needs to listen to me, not the agent. He's got to come to me. He's got to listen to me in training every day. So there is something. We just don't know exactly as to the finest details of what it actually is. I think at the end of the day, we just need to sort of keep sort of supporting Anthony Martial. And I think what Anthony Martial needs to do is support himself and listen to the manager, because at the end of the day, it's the manager who's going to make these calls, and it's the manager who's going to, give you game time.
Ben, do you think this is a case of the agents talking to the press a little bit, trying to stir up some trouble, or do you think there's genuinely something in any of this?
They're at the biggest club in the world, so the agents are always going to try and stir, aren't they? I mean, for me, Martial had a bit of a slow start to the season. He had a massive Euros, obviously, but he was on the bench most of it. But he's training every day still over the summer, so there's a question of a slight burnout there, quite possibly. But for me, I've never been... I'll throw the controversy in there. I've never been a massive fan of a striker on the wing just because he's fast. I feel like that's been the way a lot of managers have gone, just to try and shoehorn a player into the team sometimes. If he's got some pace, let's stick him out wide. And we saw a prime example of that is Danny Welbeck. A lot of the time was stuck out wide when people were screaming for him to go up front. But then when he was given that chance, he wasn't scoring the goal. So that was what happened with Danny. But with Martial, it's weird because last season when he was up the middle, he played well. But at times he struggled because he didn't have that space. Out wide, recently, he has been frightening. And you look at him with the ball at his feet, and he needs to sit down and tell himself, look, do you know what? I'm going to make myself into a winger. If he doesn't do that and he wants to just play up front, and he's not happy with Jose giving him the duties of running back and forth down the wing, doing the defensive duties and stuff, then there might be a problem there. But he's got to remember, if he's out wide, he's got other duties apart from attacking, and that's where the unrest could be unfolding from.
Do you not think that the way Zlatan plays, the way Zlatan comes deep and plays in between the lines, we actually need someone that's going to get in and beyond? And he's not a traditional winger in the he likes to cross the ball kind of sense, but he's a wide forward player. Do you not think that there's still a use for that sort of player in this game and in this system that we play?
Definitely. There is definitely a space for it, but the problem is he picking up the message, and is that where the unrest is coming from? Is that where the question marks are? Because he isn't doing that particular job that the manager's given him to do. And I can't say that he's been poor, because he hasn't. And I can't say that the guy needs to go, because he doesn't. He's going to be just an unbelievable footballer given time. But I do think that there's still question marks about him being a winger. And I still think that there's question marks over just throwing a striker out wide just because they've got some pace. And he's got a good cross, by the way, as well. So we can't really question that. I know Paul is desperate to say something here.
Go on, Paul, what do you want to say?
I just don't think that the positional issue is the problem, because he played a ton out wide last season. And he played, I think he played at least half his games on the left, if not slightly more than half. And he very clearly followed Van Gaal's instructions when he played out wide. He wasn't playing as a striker on the wing. He was playing as a Van Gaal wide forward. He tracked back relentlessly under Van Gaal last season. And I think I don't think it's necessarily about on-pitch discipline. And to me, he never looks like a striker playing out wide when he plays in that position. I think he cuts in pretty effortlessly, but he's also prepared to beat a man on the left. I think he's played so many games in that position now that it just looks like he's such a natural fit for a wide forward on the left-hand side that I'm not convinced that it's a positional problem.
There was one game this season, I can't remember what it was, but Mourinho was going mental on the touchline. And I'm sure it was Martial playing out wide that game, and he wasn't happy with him and his tracking back. He wasn't happy with him doing his defensive job. And I remember he subbed on Rashford, and Rashford didn't do much better. And that's what I'm trying to say with the whole striker syndrome and just chucking them out wide. They're not going to have that natural instinct about them. Although I agree, he hasn't done terribly. But is that something that's in Mourinho's mind as to why he's not playing him? And is that why the unrest is coming in from the agent? That's just the
I think you can't say he's not playing him, because he evidently is playing him. If you look to not playing him, you have to look at Schneiderlin and you have to look at Memphis. That was not playing players. Marshall was being played.
How many starts is it? Does anyone know?
I don't have the figures off the top of my head. I'm sure we'll stick the figure in the here. You guys in the comments, let us know. Anyway, you guys in the comments, actually tell us in the comments, do you think this is all paper talk, or do you think there's actually something in this, or is Jose Mourinho managing his squad? I think there's a multifaceted answer to what's going on here with Anthony Martial. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Have your say on this as well. Right, youth. Are we going to see the opportunity for Jose Mourinho to play youth on Thursday night with the tie almost being put to bed? Do you think Paul's really shaking his head? I think you think he's going to do that then, Paul?
No, not on Thursday. I think he is more likely to play. I don't know. When we're talking about youth right now, we're not talking about Axel Tuanzebe, are we? We're not talking about players that.
Well, yeah, I think people are. Yeah, I think people think that's a player, and Sean Goss amongst them. They were two names that people mentioned. Paul Scholes is going around telling people that he thinks Sean Goss is going to get an opportunity Thursday night, or he was until it looked like he was getting sold. So, do you think there's going to be a chance for maybe then Fosu Mensah or someone like that?
I mean, I think Fosu Mensah is really the only person we're talking about at this point, really, because the rest of the squad. There's been, I mean, since pre-season, there haven't been any call-ups. Not, the Van Gaal thing where he's calling up hundreds of players from the youth team squad just to say he could say he gave them their debut. I think Mourinho's works with a very tight first team squad, and I mean, look, it could happen. Anything can happen. I just think I would be really surprised if he plays anything less than a very, very strong team, because we've got that whole game. And then we've got a game which he's going to see as eminently winnable at the weekend. So I think this will be Zlatan, Pogba, Mkhitaryan. I think this is going to be the heavy hitters. That's my guess.
John, if we don't go with any youth players whatsoever, or any sort of rotated side against Hull, when the tie basically is put to bed, what does this say about Jose Mourinho's approach to playing youth?
I think Jose Mourinho, as not exciting as it might be, I think Jose Mourinho, like Paul mentioned, likes to play his squad very tight. If you look at his previous squads, and I don't remember the exact names off the top of my head, but they are very compact in the style that once he has his core 11 to 13 players, or 15 or whatever you want to call it, that set number seems to go push throughout the season, whatever it may be. And I think that's also another reason why you can see somebody like Zlatan, who's 35 and sort of. You can sort of understand that his legs aren't going to be, in tip-top condition. But for me, last game, I can see Zlatan tiring out a little bit. But yet, Jose Mourinho continues to sort of push through with the similar squad players. And as sad as it is, I don't think these youth players are going to get that much of a chance. Hence, sort of these loan moves in other clubs for Jose Mourinho. And I think rotation is also going to be a big key here, because we have Hull on Thursday, we have Wigan on Sunday, and then we have Hull again right after. And I think that's like 3 games in the span of a week. So we need to rotate here for sure. But I don't think he's going to start with these youngsters. If anything, he's going to pull out the key sort of substitutions early on in the match. But like Paul said, I think he's going to go guns blazing.
Ben, are you expecting any of the youngsters that we've not seen much of this season to get a game on Thursday?
No, to be fair, I completely agree with John. I think Mourinho likes his clan of players, doesn't he? He likes his squad. So I don't think we're going to really be seeing anyone. I'd like to see maybe Mensah thrown in there because he's in the squad. I'd like to maybe see Rashford start. But then again, you could say that the way he finished the game at the weekend, he deserves a start in the Premier League this upcoming weekend. In the FA Cup this upcoming weekend. So I don't know. It depends where his priorities are. I still think he's taking this game massively seriously. So no, I'm not expecting any big changes. I think it's going to be full strength.
It's a semi-final. I mean, I know we're 2-0 up, but it's the equivalent of being 2-0 up at half-time, isn't it? And the extent to which he's going to want that team to get to Wembley, I think we're much likelier to see a weak team like Romero in goal being the kind of barometer. I think we're much likely to see Romero in goal against Wigan than we are against Hull, because he's got a week till the next Premier League game.
I would have thought he would have gone with Romero in this one, honestly. But anyway, let's put it straight back to you then, Paul. What's your starting 11 for this match?
I think it is going to be really strong. So I think it's going to be De Gea. I guess I'll go Smalling and Jones, although it'd be lovely to see Rocco back, fresh from his exertions in the away end against Stoke. He was supposed to be ill, and yet he was in the away end in a freezing cold stadium. That is not good. If you're poorly, stay at home. Little bit of soup, a blanket, film on the telly, not the away end with those nutters. But then, I'm going to go Smalling, Jones. Left back, I think we're going to see Darmian. That's such a problem position. What I'd love to see is Luke Shaw back, but I think I'm going to go with Darmian as my guess. I think Carrick's coming back, so Carrick, Herrera, Pogba, and then Mkhitaryan, Rashford, and Zlatan up front. But I wouldn't be shocked if Zlatan's rested and we go Rashford, Martial.
I think we might see Wayne Rooney. That's my little thought. John, what are you saying for your starting 11?
I'm going David De Gea in goal. Thought about Romero for a hot second there, but I'm going to go David De Gea. My back four is going to be Daley Blind, Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, and Matteo Darmian. And the only reason why I didn't shove Darmian on the left and Valencia on the right is I think Jose Mourinho might give him a break here. And another key factor is I think as much as I wanted to see sort of Luke Shaw incorporated in the squad, and I want to touch just a quick second here on previous game. I think on the left-hand side, we lacked a lot in direct comparison to the right. I think we forced a lot of the play and dictated a lot of the play towards the right-hand side. I think Antonio Valencia sort of got burnt out towards the last maybe 10 minutes or so. You can see him sort of directly pointing towards the likes of Ander Herrera and getting these players to sort of switch the game quickly, because when the ball consistently goes to the right, you can see all that space being exposed on the left-hand side. And I think as much as Daley Blind is a quality player, I don't think he has enough of that sort of flanking power. I mean, yes, he does the overlapping, and yes, he does the crossing and whatnot, but he doesn't have that sort of fire, the fuego, if you like, as much as Antonio Valencia does on the right-hand side. But with that being said, I think Daley Blind's going to start on the left-hand side, maybe bring on Luke Shaw in the halftime, get him some game time. I'm going to go with the midfield three with Herrera, Pogba, and Wayne Rooney. I think agreement there. I think Wayne Rooney's going to definitely get a start here. And Jose Mourinho did mention that maybe Wayne Rooney can sort of return to being normal after with this record deal being finalized. And the front three, I'm going to go Rashford on the left, Zlatan down the middle, and Lingard down on the right. Maybe Mkhitaryan starting and the Lingard coming in, but I'm going to go Lingard start.
Well, you two have gone for very different teams there, and you're both tied on 14 points in our points
per
per player game. So, someone is going to break away. Someone's going to end up rock bottom of the league. Who's it going to be? Someone is going to be making their debut. Can go for 11 out of 11 here, I think, now, Ben. It's one player, 1 point, so don't go with a team you want to see. Go with a team that you think Jose Mourinho is going to go for. Statman Dave is top of the league. I'm just behind him. Let's hear what you think is going to be Jose Mourinho's team Thursday night. Remember, you guys can play at home as well. Get yours in the comments below, so you can get 11 out of 11.
I think Mourinho's original plan was to play Shaw against Reading, right? But he fell ill, so I reckon he's going to save Luke Shaw for the FA Cup game. I also believe, watching the Football Writers thing, that Rooney had the day off the other day. He had a day off in the week. I think it was on Monday. So I'm going to presume that he's going to play at the weekend. So I'm going to go De Gea in net, Valencia. And then I'm going to go Jones and Rojo. As far as we know, he was only ill. So I think he'll probably play. Darmian at left back. We'll go Carrick, Herrera, Pogba. Again, strong as you like. Then I'm going to go for Mickey T, Ibra, and Martial up top. I think he'll bring Martial back in. If he's rotating his squad like we hope he was with Martial, and he's managing him going one game in, one game out, then he will be back in the game.
Interesting. So we spoke about youth, and none of you have put him in. Is that because you think that Mourinho's not going to play him, or you don't want to see him played? What do you reckon?
No, Mourinho's not going to play them. Mourinho's not going to play them. Fosu Mensah will be on the bench, Rashford will be on the bench, but other than that, there'll be no surprises. He sticks to his squad. Always.
If I could just... Yeah, go, Paul.
After you, John. No, go for it.
I just wanted to include that, as much as we'd like to see some of these youngsters coming in, and although you mentioned that it is, in theory, 2-0 at halftime, I think it's a good level and a good concoction of pressure for these youngsters to sort of come in and feel a little bit of that heat and get some of that important game time in. But I don't think Jose Mourinho is going to revert and resort to the youngsters here.
It's a semi-final. It's not the third round of the League Cup. It's a semi-final. He's going to take it ridiculously seriously. I think if we're 2-0 up at half-time, then Fosu Mensah starts the second half. But I mean, listen, this could be completely wrong. It's just my guess, but that's what I reckon is going to happen.
But what I also think it would be for the young lads as well, if they do manage to see us into a final. That's going to be an awesome achievement for them to be able to put Manchester United in. If they manage to get a full 90 minutes in this, I think that'd do excellent for their momentum and for their Manchester United careers.
Exactly.
Howson, I take it Fosu Mensah's anchor in the midfield for you then?
Yeah, because that's where he plays.
But you'll start him. You think Mourinho will start him?
No, I don't, but I think he should get some minutes. I think he definitely deserves some minutes. All he seems to be doing is just Snapchatting himself driving around Deansgate at the moment, so I think he needs some game time. The guy looks bored. Right, and tell me about Hull.
I'm really pleased that Marco Silva has done well in his initial time at Hull, because the way certain aspects of the British football press covered his arrival, well, not press, television punditry, was a proper disgrace.
You mean Paul Merson? Just say it how it is. It's Paul Merson.
Yeah, and Phil Thompson in particular, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So it was basically ugly what they had to say about Marco Silva. It was profoundly uninformed. I can't claim to be an expert on him as a manager, but then I wouldn't go on television and proclaim myself an expert in his abilities as a manager. Maybe he might be quite good. I mean, Hull have been a disaster as a club since the summer and before that, really. And this is their third manager this season. That's never a good sign. But he seems to have got them going. He's kind of in the Mourinho mould, isn't he? Mourinho said he hopes he wins every game apart from the 3 against us. So I think that's probably about right. And Abel Hernandez has started scoring, which has made a big difference to them. But they've got an awful lot to do to avoid the drop.
John, what do you know about him?
I mean, Marco Silva, like Paul mentioned, he does have the Portuguese spice as well. But I think it's more so the players that's more of a concern. I mean, they obviously lost Ryan Mason to that, terrible the skull fracture. So, and they already have a lack of players as it is, with the club not funding these the transfers, and they're also in doubt for losing Snodgrass as well. So it's going to be really tough for them to sort of keep the pressure going, and obviously they're going to see us in a week afterwards. So it's going to be interesting how Marco Silva is going to line these players up. But I think, with all due respect, I think it's going to be a bit sort of an advantage for us, considering the fact that Hull City are going through this sort of a tumultuous period.
Ben, is this the sort of like push all your chips in, go all in, go bananas for it thing that Marco Silva could do and really stamp himself all over Hull? If he gets to a final beating Manchester United after going 2-0 down in the first leg, that really puts his star right up there, doesn't it? Do you think there's any chance of that happening?
I think they'll be fired up for the game. I really do. 2-0 isn't the be all and end all, as you say, at half time. As soon as they get a goal, they're going to push for the second one, and a 2-0 lead is never safe. One thing I would say is I thought they played all right against Chelsea. I think at one point I was expecting them to get level, but then Chelsea just sunk the game. And as Hernandez is, you never know if he's going to turn up. And it's the same with that guy who's just joined from Everton, that Nisei or whatever he's called. Guarantee they have the best game ever against us at the weekend. Coming up. So I'm fearful, but we should be able to do the job. I'm still a little bit fearful though. 2-0's not safe.
Put it on the line. What score is it going to be?
I'll be happy with a 1-0. Just get it over and done with.
John, what score is it going to be?
I'm sitting here talking all this crap about how, all due disrespect, no mean to disrespect Hull City, but I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw.
Wow. Paul, what score is it going to be? Please be inspiring instead of these two boring predictions.
I think I said 2-0 on the podcast. I'm going to stick with that. 2-0 United. A professional performance rather than one that knocks their socks off, especially given Hull's run of Premier League fixtures that's coming up is brutal. So it's not like they've got Fulham away in the Cup at the weekend, and then us and like Arsenal and and Liverpool. I think it's a really tough run for them. So if they were playing relegation scrappers in the next few weeks, you might expect him to almost field a weakened side in this game, but he can play all the strongest players he has for this one. So I don't think we're going to absolutely blow them out of the water.
I'm going to go one better though. I'm going to say 3-0. I thought it was quite fortunate for it only to be 2 at Old Trafford. I do think 3 on the road. I think they're going to be a little bit more open. They've got to come for it, otherwise the game's going to be over. I think we're going to get an early goal and then we're going to put them to bed nice and easy. Anyway, thank you for you guys for joining us. Make sure you guys watching at home get your comments in and get your predictions in for your team. Let us know what you think is going on with Anthony Martial as well. Let's not forget that. And then get your score predictions in. Are we about to see Manchester United at Wembley for our first bit of silverware, potentially early in February? Come on. Right, thank you for watching. See you later.